Hi gang, the Joy of Football podcast is dipping in and out of international football this week, starting with Martin's letter from the Gantry, in which he recalls commentating on every England World Cup finals game since 1982.
And we're going over land and sea, particularly to the USA, looking forward, of course, to the next World Cup.
Explain That deals with VAR developments, fouls out of playing time, and the World Cup structure.
And Three of the Best has got a distinctly Irish feel to it and a bit of Scottish thrown in as well.
And if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. If you want to make comments, do that. Get more involved by going to the Patreon. And don't forget, you can read us, The Joy of Football, on substack.com. Okay, go.
The Joy of Football podcast. With me, Neil Barnett.
And with me, Martin Tyler.
Looks like Senne! Rooney! Aguero!
The Joy of Football.
Hello, the Joy of Football podcast with Martin Tyler, the greatest commentator in the world, and me, Neil Barnett. And this is the week that England have finally qualified for the World Cup without conceding a goal in all those qualifiers. Martin, you were a non-league centre forward of some note, some. Do you celebrate no goals conceded, or do you mourn the state of football?
No, I don't mourn the state of football. I love the state of football because that's what it is. You know, it's not for us to change it; it's for us to change with it. And yeah, defensive, it's fantastic. Always wanting to see the goal scorers score, and I'm a great admirer of set piece skills as well. And going back to England's semi-final in 2018, that was a campaign born on the fruits of set piece goals. So,
including in the semi-final itself.
Yeah, absolutely, Kieran Trippier. Yeah, so no, it's well played, everybody. Done the job. People will argue that quality of the opposition. I don't put that up as an argument. You can only play who you're drawn against. You can only beat who you're drawn against, and England have done that, and without conceding a goal. It's phenomenal, really.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're ducking in and out of USA and the World Cup this podcast, so we're going to start with Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry.
Letter from the Gantry.
Thanks, Neil. With the 48 nations and 104 matches spread over 3 countries, the television coverage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup will face logistical challenges like never before. Add into the mix possible climate difficulties identified by the storm delays during the recent Club World Cup in the USA, and you can see how complicated the planning is for those with leading roles in the sports broadcasting industry. For commentators who've covered past World Cups, there's likely to be one significant change. Instead of travelling to different venues dependent on the relevance of fixtures to a particular nation, the assignment is much more likely to be to a particular city and the fixtures which are scheduled at that base. There will be some venue hopping, but far less, with pressure of costs, time zones, and most importantly, carbon footprints. It could not be more different from the previous tournament. Qatar 2022 was the ultra-convenient World Cup. A brand new metro system connected all the venues in a small country. On those 4-a-day fixtures early in the tournament, it was certainly possible to commentate on 2 of them. Some superfans even managed to attend, at least in part, all 4 games on a particular day. Not all the matches will be covered with commentators in the stadium either, or even in the Americas. Working off a monitor in a domestic television centre off tubing will have a significant role to play. And though you lose the buzz of being on site, I've worked on tournaments in this capacity in the past, you still get that warm feeling of being involved. However, FIFA does provide a world feed in English from broadcasters actually in the grounds, which is available to all. Because of the expansion of the tournament, a bigger squad of commentators is needed to provide this. The vital organisation is HBS TV, Host Broadcasting Services. I was part of their group for the Club World Cup back in June, and fingers crossed for June 2026. The World Cup holders are, of course, Argentina, the winners of the first finals I worked on back in 1978. England hadn't qualified, as was also the case in 1994, the first USA World Cup. but I have covered all their games in the finals 1908 to 1990 and 1998 to 2022, and all their exits. In the pages of football history, it's often read as a litany of underachievement. Having borne witness to it all, I take a more sympathetic view, and from an objective standpoint too. It's always been England, or they, in my commentaries, never we or us. My World Cup employer, mostly over those years, has been SBS, an Australian channel to which I am extremely and eternally grateful. But I knew from the off that even if their Socceroos hadn't qualified, the last nation the Aussies would be backing would be England, except for the expats, of course. Just check out the Ashes rivalry over the weeks ahead. My first involvement with SBS was Italian 90. England rather scraped into the quarterfinals thanks to an extra time winner against Belgium from David Platt. When I returned to the production office after the game, the mood, rather than glowing, was distinctly grumpy. My personal and sympathetic reflection on England go like this. 1982, failed to make the semi-finals in a strangely constructed tournament, went home unbeaten in their 5 games in Spain, and key players Kevin Keegan and Trevor Brooking only fit for the final few minutes in what turned out to be the last match. 1986, beaten in the quarterfinals by Argentina by Maradona, the notorious Hand of God, say no more. 1990, losing semi-finalists to Germany, that penalty shootout. If matches were only shootouts, Germany would be world champions forever. Top 4 finish. 1998, penalties again, this time in the round of 16. This time Argentina in Saint-Étienne in France. Arguably the best 40 minutes of World Cup football I have ever seen. Then David Beckham was sent off, and knighthood seemed very far away at that moment. Sol Campbell's disallowed goal, a very gallant defeat. 2002, quarter-final against Brazil, the deadly free kick from Ronaldinho. Fantastic or freak? Take your pick. Whatever, England were on the wrong end of it. 2006, impressive in reaching another quarter-final in sweltering heat in Germany. Penalties yet again. Portugal this time. A red card again. Wayne Rooney this time. Great players Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard missed penalties. Jamie Carragher scored his, but was made to retake it and failed with his second attempt. Then a 21-year-old called Cristiano Ronaldo sent England home. 2010, Lampard at the centre again. The oh-so-clearly over-the-line goal not given against Germany in the round of 16. I'm sure had it been awarded, the narrative of the subsequent 4-1 defeat would have changed dramatically. 2014, no excuses in Brazil. Out before even the third group game was played. 2018, with a penalty shootout win over Colombia along the way, a third ever semi-final, a great Kieran Trippier free kick, not backed up though, but the optimism again of a top 4 finish. 2022, another quarter-final heartbreak against the holders France. Penalties, 2 from the country's greatest ever goal scorer by a distance, but the second crucially off target by a distance. So now to the next finals, qualification already by a country mile. Thomas Tuchel has recently made a forceful address to his players on avoiding red cards, aware of the past. And the secret of successful shootouts is now in-house with a German in charge. Since 1966, there has been this catalogue for England of World Cup ifs, buts and maybes. And now the chance of celebrating a diamond anniversary by holding aloft a golden trophy. It can be the hope that kills you. After a perfect qualifying campaign, it now should read, it's the hope that thrills you.
Yeah, I think I have sympathy with your argument that England have been hard done by the people who put us down as losers. But I have to say that the general form of England in World Cups has been absolutely abysmal. And it's interesting that you pick out the Glenn Hoddle team as playing the best football. It's also interesting because they played 3 at the back. And if I had to pick out one other year of the best football, it would probably be the 1990 semi-finalists who, after the first game, played 3 at the back. I don't know what that tells us. I've never thought about it before, but it's how it was. And I do think those were probably the 2 more flowing teams. And I think I just sat there and watched game after game of underperformance.
I think 2022, when of course England were given the boost, at least in theory, of playing during the English season,
that did help.
The football was pretty good, wasn't it? Jude Bellingham strode onto the scene. England scored goals, and Harry Kane, who's who I'm going to talk about later. I mean, for him that penalty goes in, the second penalty, and I'm sure England progress.
France are a good team.
Yeah, but it's ifs, buts, and maybes, isn't it? And of course we can't rewrite history. I'm just trying to give a slightly different slant on it, Neil, from being there, I guess, from being there, and maybe feeling it more, but feeling it more as a neutral broadcaster, not as an Englishman.
I think the other thing is that in 1990, Lineker and Beardsley had something that appeared to be what you get in club football, that kind of partnership, that understanding, that attacking flourish. And I've never felt that in any other England setup. I know it's only one up now, and maybe the nearest to it was in 2018 with Kane and Sterling. But Sterling didn't score a goal in the tournament, but he had a very good tournament and we played 3-5-2 in that tournament. And he played up front, not as a winger.
What is interesting from that France game in 2022, I think 9 of the players who got on the pitch were involved in the game in Albania. So that shows one thing. I think the consistency of performance from those players.
And selection.
And selection, and obviously a change in management and with a different approach to it, simply because it's a different human being.
You'd have to say in 2022 as well, Bellingham playing at number 10 was like a second striker and had a relationship with Kane, but Kane was very laboured, I thought, in that tournament. But
I think he was better than he was in the Euros in 2024.
Me and Harry in tournaments, You need a good tournament, Harry. We're all behind you, mate, but you need a good tournament. Letter from the Gantry.
I wouldn't trade him for anybody else, by the way. So.
Well, you'd have to shortlist him with Mbappe and
but Mbappe can't play like
Dembele, maybe.
They can't play.
It's the best forwards in the world at the moment.
No, they don't.
Oh, and Haaland.
They don't often.
Haaland.
Yeah, well, that's more like it. Yeah.
But
I think Harry's rise. He got 100 goals quicker in the top league than anybody else, didn't he? When in Germany, quicker than Ronaldo. Quicker than somebody else who was in there. Who did you just mention? Haaland.
Letter from the Gantry. You can read Martin's letters from the Gantry on our Substack.com site under the Joy of Football, Substack.com. And you can subscribe to that as well, that site, and you can read my rants. Letter from the Gantry. Next up is back from a sabbatical, over land and sea. And this is stories of us touring the world to watch and be involved in, work our football. Martin, over land and sea.
Yeah, thinking about, this is very sort of USA centric, isn't it, today? But thinking about the previous World Cup in the USA in 1994, I was going to talk about, I was based on the East Coast. I was Chicago, Detroit, New Jersey, which is Giant Stadium. It's called something else now, isn't it? Metro. Boston, with Foxborough, Washington, Orlando, all down the east side, really. And so there were lots of sort of traveller's tales, including me losing all my airline. You got the tickets for the whole World Cup. And I lost mine halfway through the tournament. All the envelope with all the other tickets, I left it on the plane. Surprise, surprise! Or it slipped out of the back of my rucksack and that. Anyway, I had to go all the way back when I got back to New York to go through it all again, which was my folly. And boy, did I pay a price for it! But it got done. But the sort of a sentimental memory is that because I was always moving from hotel to hotel, game to game to game. I always arrived and then checked in probably late in the day. Now, during the early period of the World Cup, it was Father's Day, and my children were born in 1989 1987 and 1989. And this was probably the first time since they were sort of now gone past the toddler stage that I've been away for a long period. So I was feeling it. I don't know how much they were feeling it, but I was. In Father's Day, it was, I guess it was faxing. Obviously, that was the way to get that. So you would fax the hotel. So my family had the hotels and the dates where I was staying. So they would fax a Father's Day card, but because I hadn't checked in, it wouldn't be, this is Mr. Tyler coming in, whatever. But because there was no Mr. Tyler on their register till I'd signed in, then they said, we don't have a Mr. Tyler here. So at 3 different hotels, up to, I think on the day and after the day, they were all destroyed before I got to the hotel. And it was really quite heartbreaking with having young children and the gap, separated by 3,000 miles. And I understood the system, but somehow we couldn't circumnavigate. So I never got the Father's Day cards, but I guess I got a lot of good wishes for the fact that I hadn't got them. But I can see, looking at this, you knew I was checking in. I was on your list. Oh no, well you hadn't checked in, so we don't keep those sort of things. So, and then not even an ounce of sentiment looking, that'll be nice for somebody. We better keep it in case he comes in. Cold-hearted hotel receptionists in the USA 1994 is a story I hope I don't go through again. Well, Father's Day will happen again if I get a trip this time. So maybe I can do it. I'll be in one place. Yeah. That'll be different if it happens. Yeah.
Well, of course, the countries won't be in one place in order to play their games.
No.
I've done 13 tours of the States. Obviously, I've been there more, stayed in one place.
That's more than the Beatles.
But I've done 13. Yeah, I've done 13 tours of the States for football, and I've had 4 occasions where my tour has been badly interrupted by flight delays because of weather. I've had 2 or 3 games where it's been interrupted, but that's a delay during the game, and it's an hour and a half, and then at the end of it, you kind of put it behind you. But my 4 delays, flight-wise, the first one was in 2005 when Chelsea were training in New Jersey and had a game in Washington, D.C. And obviously you fly the day before the game, stay in a hotel and do all the normal things you do on an away game. And we couldn't take off because of the weather, not in New Jersey, but in DC. So in the end, we flew in the morning of the game, got in about lunchtime, and the game was played in the evening. It really wasn't suitable for professional footballers to be doing that. And it was desperately unsuitable for journalists working with them to miss out on the night before as well. But the point is, a World Cup game, you wouldn't want to see a nation flying in on the day of the game. You wouldn't want to see that. So
you're not allowed to, I don't think. You have to be there the night before. I'm sure you do by FIFA regulations. Yeah,
well,
you do.
So that could cause a problem. Then in 2007, flying out to LA, Los Angeles from London, where the training was, we stopped in Winnipeg in Canada, which I think was for a fuel charge up, because obviously it's a smaller plane than your huge jumbo jets that are going out to take in passengers. And we finished up stuck in Winnipeg airport for, I think, and there were very few facilities there where we were. In fact, we stood a lot of the time on the runway. We were stuck there for 4.5, 5 hours, which again, if you're traveling to a game, it's just out of the question. And of course, Canada is part of the World Cup as well. And again, it wasn't the weather in Winnipeg that was the problem. We could have taken off. But yeah, so we... in 2013, I got stuck in Miami. This was actually the end of the tour. And I was trying to come home. And I was flying via JFK in New York back to London. And it was my 60th birthday, which I missed completely as a result of this. And it was the weather in New York that I couldn't fly out to Miami. So I missed, when I finally flew into New York, I missed my connection. They gave me a flight on the morning of my birthday, which got in on the evening. So I missed the day. I actually, in trying to argue that they should put me up because it was my birthday,
Yes.
and they had absolutely no interest and just fobbed me off. And there was a woman in front of me in the queue having a bit of a breakdown over not getting the flight. She'd been to Grenada, poor thing, to bury her mother. And she'd never been to the USA, and she had a visa just to come back through New York. And she was desperate to get back to London for her 2-year-old granddaughter's, or for her 1-year-old granddaughter's second birthday. And she was doing all the catering. She was in a right old state. So I said to her, when we couldn't organize anything, either of us, I'm not hanging around in the airport all night. And we went down to New York, where she'd never been, and got absolutely hammered.
Is this a clean story?
Yes, no, totally. We got absolutely hammered. We just stayed in bars, drank a lot, went back to the airport in the morning, had breakfast. And when the plane finally took off, I forced them on the guilt trip, American Airlines, and they gave me an upgrade. So,
did she get an upgrade?
No, she was sitting on the other side of the plane. And I got an upgrade, and that was the best part of my birthday, really. But I got back about 9 o'clock at night and missed it completely. My last one, 2018, I got stuck in New York in storms trying to get to Detroit. I was at LaGuardia Airport. There are 4 terminals there, and they moved the flight through all 4 terminals in order to try and get it to take off. And I had to travel from terminal to terminal. I actually got the last flight out. Otherwise, I'd have missed the game the following day in Detroit.
This time you were 65 by
mathematics.
so
I was.
It must have been a bit more of a struggle then.
What, getting from terminal to terminal? I'll tell you what, I had the best burger I had on the whole trip in the airport, actually, when I was waiting at one of the terminals. So LaGuardia holds a slightly more sympathetic place in my heart to some of the others. But 4 times something happened. I don't remember this ever happening in the '94 World Cup. Any delays because of weather?
Climate change, Neil.
Is it? I mean, seriously,
it might be. I mean, let's be honest. I mentioned it in the letter, and it is a serious issue. Having been in Philadelphia, I was for the Club World Cup, where there was a threat of bad weather coming, but it didn't actually come. But there were still record temperatures higher than, I think, 1966, which was a year that resonated. That's why I remember them telling me that it was the hottest during a period there since 1966. So, there's so many different arguments about it, but I'm in the camp that we should be doing more to deal with it. And we'll see if the World Cup is drastically interrupted. Maybe it will send a message to everybody that more needs to be done.
Even to the president. Okay, enough of that. Over land and sea, thank you. On to Explain That. We haven't had that for a while either. Explain that.
Have we ever had it before?
Yes.
Oh, we have. Right.
Martin, explain the developments that are coming in VAR.
Well, we think they're coming. I think the one that I'd like to talk about is it looks as though VAR will be able to intervene if they think a clear and obvious error has been made on a second yellow card. As I'm sure everybody knows, that the yellow cards are not subject to VAR unless they think that they can be upgraded to red, which happened to Cristiano Ronaldo recently playing in Ireland. So this is a big step forward because it has, I think, instant attractions, but I worry about the consequences. The attraction is if somebody has a yellow card and is wrongly given the second yellow card, that at the moment nothing can be done about it with the VAR protocol. That will change. And as I understand it, that is only one way, in the sense that VAR can intervene if a clear and obvious error has been made, resulting in a player getting a second yellow and getting sent off. What I thought it might mean is that they could come in and say, well, he should have a yellow for that and being sent off. But I'm told that is not the case. So it's certainly just the one way. And the argument is, let's say there's, I don't know, a tackle where a guy gets a second yellow card for, and it's deemed by VAR review that it was a clean tackle and the ball was played. And therefore the team will be down to 10 men through a mistake. And this is another error that they're trying to put right. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I think that's
I'm totally in favour of it. What I'm not in favour of is a bunch of referees sitting in the VAR office making a decision. We want one referee, one ex-player, and one person with an IQ to compensate for the other two.
Let me finish on the consequences
because it's taking too long, and the wrong decisions are still being made.
What concerns me, sorry Neil, we'll come back to that. if you forgive me for disregarding you, I think it's the first time in 80 odd podcasts I've ever said that. I might have thought it a few times, but I don't think I've ever done it. But I think that's only a short step away from, hang on a minute, that first yellow card was the wrong one. So we should be, to be fair, a player's going off, and it's just a mirror image of the situation they are going to cover with the second yellow. So I don't think it will be long before football from within says, yeah, well, you've saved a few people from getting a red card there, but my man's got a red card because a second justifiable yellow card, but the first one he shouldn't have had in the first place.
What they could do is assess afterwards during the game each yellow card and ask the referee to go back to the first one if he gives a second one, or she.
But the games will finish on Saturday afternoon, starting at 3:00 a week on Tuesday.
Well,
and
I don't think it happens that often though.
I think people. I keep notes of why people are sent off, and they're more sent off for two yellows than they are for straight reds. That's for sure. So, and therefore, I think they're opening a can of worms by doing this, to the point where the logical extension of it all is that every yellow card will be under scrutiny, whatever state in the game. And as I say, for me, it's just a part of it all getting too much.
I've got a very important question. In the VAR offices, when they're watching, are they allowed refreshments?
I'm sure they are.
Are they allowed anything other than water?
I would think not, but that other soft drinks are available.
Well, what I'm saying is they shouldn't be, because they should not have the opportunity to refresh themselves during play in the way that players and referees don't have the opportunity.
They do have the opportunity. That's one of the things I would moan about if we had more time. With too many of these breaks and hydration, all in the cause all in the cause of physical well-being. And I'm not going to mention it, but I think every program I'm going to reference it. If we don't do something about the goalkeepers lying down after 27 minutes so that everybody can have a tactical break. Yeah, and they do it when there's nothing, the play's not near them or anything like that. It's a con. And the referees know it's a con, but on the grounds of medical checking that they can't risk being said, get up, get on with it. And everything that happens, the tactical timeouts or whatever you want to call them, is now orchestrated by the goalkeeper. And until an outfield player has to go off when a goalkeeper goes down, like it does if it's an outfield player who needs treatment, he has to go off, then there should be, and I think it should be the captain. It will soon stop it, because if the captain has to go off for a minute after the goalkeeper goes down, then there'll be ructions, because the captain won't want to do that, and he'll be saying to the coach, "We can't be doing this."
Yeah.
And it should. I don't have to do anything but admit my loyalties. I was at Woking game, and we timed it 27 minutes, where the opposing goalkeeper went down, and Woking do it as well. So it's just that everybody in the ground knows that it's a con.
Yeah. Well,
the image of football is being spoilt in this particular way of gamesmanship, and the lawmakers who fiddle around with laws that perhaps don't need fiddling around with, the lawmakers need to look at this now.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think that we have to stop managers talking individually to players and getting them around during the game. I think that should be outlawed itself. And I've said that for a while now. The game is about players. It's too much about managers these days.
I have one other rant about referees, which you might have detected over the period, is throw-ins being taken from the right place. I was delighted to hear from the PGMOL that long throws now have to be taken from exactly where they have realised that if you make it 5 yards, if you sneak 5 yards, which is common practice on any throws, then you can throw it even nearer to the danger point for the opposition. So long throws. Now, the next thing after that is all throws should be taken from where the ball goes out, as per the laws of the game.
Get in there, Martin. Right. A very quick one. I brought this up in a Voice of Passion some time ago, that I think fouls out of play, which the referee can't whistle up by the laws of the game, should be part of the laws of the game. And from the moment the players come out on the pitch to the moment they leave the pitch, the referee, and even in the tunnel post-match, the referee can send a player off. So I think fouls should count all the way through that period. What do I mean by that? I look back at Bournemouth's goal against Manchester City recently, where Donnarumma claimed he was being held by, I think, David Brooks. But when I looked at it, was from a corner. When I looked at it, it seemed to me that Brooks let go as the corner was being taken. And this is what players do now. This is the gamesmanship that players do. So we need the rules changed. The referee can punish a player out of the ball being in play. And if that means a foul in the build-up to a set play being taken, then the free kick goes to the person who's being fouled.
Or the penalty.
Yeah, or the penalty, correct. Yeah. And that would soon stop that.
It would be interesting to see that, because, I mean, it's funny because
I'll tell you what, sorry.
It'd be a non-contact sport. It'd become a non-contact sport if you're happy to have that.
Well, it wouldn't.
It would, because if I can't push and shove to get my position in the penalty area, so because I'd be penalised.
Yeah, but you don't need to. You don't need to.
Of course you do. Yeah, you do.
Well, you do now the way it is.
Well, you're allowed to now the way it is.
But I mean,
and always have been, to be fair, because of what you just said.
Yeah. But I think that I don't think it would make it non-contact at all. But you've just got to you've got to be sensible. And at the moment, they're being outrageous, the players, and they're cheating.
Everybody, I mean, they're trying to gain an advantage. Of course,
I accept that.
But defenders and attackers to an equal measure, which is why the referees just go, we play on unless it's something really obvious. And when we see that, we go, oh wow, that's he's picked on two players that he's obviously kept his eye on from the way the ball came in, because you can't. It's impossible to see everything.
Yeah, but fouls should be fouls from the moment.
Well,
they
certainly
take
the truth about if you go down the tunnel and swear at the referee or something as a player, then you are sent off.
Yeah, but if you hold a player to stop him going to the ball because the ball is not yet in play, it's a foul.
You know the answer: playing skins with numbers written on the back of it, because you won't be grabbing that.
Right. Final explain that. This is something actually that Martin and I were talking about on the phone, and that we didn't know the answer to, and I had to look it up, which is the whole structure of the World Cup. Now, you explain to me, because there's 48 countries, exactly how it's going to work. And
12 groups of 4, which is logical.
Which wasn't the case when it was first touted by FIFA. They've changed their minds on that.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah, they were touting groups of 3, and they turned against it.
16 groups of 3, my goodness, anyway, the thing that's odd about it, and that has happened in other World Cups, when the numbers, you really need 4, 8, 16, 32 to make it work. So 64, which has been mooted, by the way, would be the next logical way when you don't have the third place nations going through. So not many of the 48 are going to be knocked out after the group phase, which I guess for the commercial, the economics, the worldwide interest in the tournament is a plus. for football drama, it's not, because you want those moments where it's jeopardy, peril. You're going out. If you lose today, you're out. But now you'll be saying, if you lose today, you'll be in the bottom three. Sorry, the top three. We'll have to wait to see what happens on Thursday to see whether another club.
But 8 of the 12 top 3 go through. So only the 8 bottom teams and an extra 4.
Yeah, 12
out.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens? This is what we didn't know. What happens if 2 third-place teams finish exactly level? How do they decide? And the answer is, first of all, of course, they decide on most points. Secondly, they decide on.
Well, they can't be level if they're on most points, can they?
Well, no, yeah. No. So the second decision is on goal difference. If that's equal, the third decision is on goals scored. If that's equal, the fourth decision is on best disciplinary record.
Yeah,
yellow and red cards.
That's equal. Oh yeah, go on.
If that's equal, the fifth decision is on the most recent FIFA World Ranking. And if that's equal, the sixth decision is to go back to the previous world ranking and repeat going back until one of them has a better ranking than the other. And
they're very unlikely to be equal on the FIFA ranking, aren't they? So that's the one that's going to determine it.
And the weakness, if you can call it that, of this structure is that a fourth place team, a bottom place team, can have more points than a third place team in another group going through, which is what happened to Ukraine in the last Euros.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. It's bad luck.
Yeah, that is the way. You know what you're going into. All those regulations will be imprinted on the hearts, certainly the administrators of the countries, not necessarily the managers, certainly not the players. But yeah, in the end, you've got to determine it's a knockout competition, and how you get to the ultimate showpiece in world football.
I haven't got a problem with that. I've got to admit, because in the same way you could argue the playoffs for promotion are harsh on the higher teams who miss out on that.
So what we've got, the bottom 12 groups of 4, bottom 12. Plus 4 others.
Yeah.
So 16.
So it's a lot of games to get not very far.
Yes. Yeah. But
my problem is the quality of the football by having lesser countries in.
No, but we've had this disagreement, Neil. You are an entitled Premier League supporter, so you expect certain quality of football. For me, I just want the games to be evenly played, and I don't mind what level it is. If it's a proper game, I'll go and watch a game in a recreation ground between 2 Saturday afternoon county teams or something like that.
But we don't want 8-0s and 9-0s in the World Cup.
Have you just looked at some of the scores in the FIFA Under-17 World Cup?
No.
Massive. There's a 16-0, I think. 16 or something like
that. Right.
But I do believe in the democracy of it. I do think it's great that nations like Cape Verde and Uzbekistan, the ones that have never been seen before, that they get the chance. Take the tournament to one side. It develops the game we love in countries that haven't had that opportunity to, within their countries, expand and show what a wonderful game football is.
Martin, the ultimate liberal. We move on, and I hope you move on with us, because if you are enjoying it, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to put some comments down if you want to have your say. We'll be coming on to some comments later. Okay, it's time for 3 of the best.
And he makes them pay.
3 of the best. He's made them pay, and that completes a wonderful hat-trick.
Young player, old player, player. And we're almost only doing, Martin's got to have 2 on one of them. Let's go. Martin, young player.
That is the pot calling the kettle black, that is.
It's all right, I'm going to have one in a bit.
This is one of the great stories, I think, of the season, and for Irish football, many a season. Troy Parrott is my young player. 23, and known in my notes as a young Tottenham player. He came over as a 16-year-old and made his mark. He made his mark in the youth team. He made a couple of Premier League appearances and then was loaned out pretty much all over the place. Lots of loans: Millwall, Ipswich, MK Dons and Preston. And sort of disappeared off the radar. In fact, Spurs sold him. He had a loan spell also in Dutch football, a club called Excelsior, and did so well that AZ Alkmaar, a bigger club in the Netherlands, signed him at the back of at the beginning of the 2024-25 season. So he's been there. This is his second season. And Spurs have had some young forwards. I mean, Dane Scarlett is still there, and he's been around the same sort of time. He's more of an attacking midfield player. Alfie Devine, he scored an FA Cup goal in his debut. He's at Preston on loan. So Spurs, they give them a chance, but it looked like Troy Parrott, they said, well, I think they got €8 million, sort of just a bit south of £7 million. So fair return for the investment. But what he did for the Republic of Ireland over the international break in November is just staggering. First of all, and in a time where really they'd given up any chance, or they hadn't given up in the I'm sure in the dressing room, in the training ground, but the fans had probably given up on them. They had Portugal to play, one of the best teams in not just in Europe but in the world, and with Cristiano Ronaldo. But that's another side to the story, and I'm not going to ruin Troy Parrott's part of this by talking about what happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. All I can say is that Ronaldo was sent off after Troy had scored the 2 goals. 2 goals, one from a fox in the box finish from a clever set piece, headed back across, and he knocked it in from almost on the line, and then cutting through on a counter attack, switching it, going inside from the left on his right foot, and sort of reversing it back into the bottom corner to the goalkeeper's right. They're terrific goals. And they won 2-0. And so that set up, well, now it's Hungary away. And the Hungary away game is a different. Hungary have had their moments, certainly on the European stage in recent times. And Ireland would be, expect to come second in the game. The neutrals would have thought that. And then they got a penalty, which he scored. Troy scored, it was 1-0. And then it went in Hungary's way. And then Troy Parrott scored 2 in the closing minutes. The last one, virtually the last touch of the game, not only to win the game, the 3 points, to get a hat-trick. So he's got 5 goals in 2 internationals and 2 really tough fixtures. The first competitive hat-trick that's ever been achieved by a Republic of Ireland player in an away game. And the scenes afterwards were just, it was Roy the Rovers. It was almost stranger than fiction, really. It's just amazing. It's the sort of thing that the joy of football plus. And for somebody who's sort of plugged away at their game, hope to make it as a Premier League player, might still, this kind of form is going to get people looking at him. Comes from Dublin, proper Irishman. And there was no luck in the Irish for this. This was absolutely brilliant. I can only congratulate him and his teammates and their Icelandic manager, who have, brought this about in such a romantic but realistic way. Wonderful.
Lovely. My young player is also 23 years old. At the other end of the pitch, a goalkeeper. The Manchester United goalkeeper, Senne Lammens.
Lammens, I think. It's a very, Belgium's a strange country because they have the 2
Flemish
languages, Flemish and the French, and you're never quite sure until you speak to them which part they come from.
United won their last 5 games, which is something that they haven't done for a long time. And one of the people who has commented on this is a certain Sir Alex Ferguson, who has said there are signs the manager has had some good signings.
Have they won their last 5 games?
Undefeated in 5.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, because they drew at 2-2 with someone, Nottingham Forest. This is what Sir Alex said. There are signs the manager's had some good.
2 at Tottenham as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, undefeated in 5.
Right. They've conceded 2 goals in each of their last 3 games.
Shut up, Tyler. There are signs.
But there are a lot. I agree with you. There
Said
are
Sir Alex.
signs,
Not with
definitely.
me. So you agree with Sir Alex.
Oh, right.
The manager has had some good signings. Particularly the goalkeeper has been outstanding. He's only played 3 or 4 games and he's looking really good. I have preached on here ever since we started that if I were a team struggling or just promoted, the 2 positions that I would shore up would be the goalkeeper to win me 10 points a season and a goal scorer to win me 10 points a season. Well, I'll come on to goal scorer in a moment, but I think that Manchester United goalkeepers haven't been good enough recently. And I think the first time I saw this guy play, I wasn't overwhelmed with him, I have to say, on the television. He didn't play when I saw United in the flesh this season. But he is beginning to look the real deal. And you cannot have a good team if you don't have a goalkeeper who is one of the best. Ask Liverpool, because I think they are missing Alisson Becker so much. And this Georgian who had a wonderful Euros, but hasn't had a great time in Spain on loan with Valencia, where he was bought from last season. He doesn't look a Premier League style of goalkeeper, and I think he's struggling. And Liverpool are struggling as a result. Manchester United have got a goalkeeper who can maybe take them forward for a decade or more, who is looking the real deal. Very interesting. The most recent Belgian game with no injured Courtois, Self's played the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. He's got no clean sheets for Forest this season. Well, United have only got 1 clean sheet, and Lammens didn't keep that. It was before he was in. So, as you say, goals conceded. But
you're right. I was at the Brighton game and he played very well. He's got a sense of authority about him, which maybe his recent predecessors haven't had. And I do think it's a good signing. And I do think it'll help move Manchester United. They are in an upward movement at the moment, and there's no reason to suppose that won't continue. How far? What sort of angle upward it'll see, but they're giving themselves a chance. And as you say, it does start from the back. Go back to Brian Clough, one of the great managers of all time. You get your goalkeeper in, get that sorted. He went and got the best in the land with Peter Shilton, and I think that's a pretty good way to start to build a football team.
Old player.
I'm going to go for, they are old players, but they are very different. The 2 old firm managers in Scotland. One is interim and is, I think, maybe nearer your age than mine, but that still makes him pretty old. And that's the great Martin O'Neill, whose career I followed pretty much all through my career, because he was playing as a player with Brian Clough and Nottingham Forest and won the league, won the European Cups, and was part of that wonderful setup. And there's been a manager all over the place, including a previous spell at Celtic, where he was extremely successful,
and who's been as belligerent as Brian Clough in his manner, but in a really appealing way. If you're
he's a very intelligent man. I think I had it down that he'd done a law degree. I've checked it out for this podcast that he didn't complete his law degree, but in the laws of football, I don't mean the written laws, but the etiquette and all the politics of it, he's a master of it, and he's great company. He's very, very witty, and he can be very, very angry as well, as I found out a couple of times. Not to my cost, because probably had a decent argument. But he's now the interim. And I've covered the old firm games, and I do not pretend in any way to be an expert on it, but I can tell you that there's nothing like it. And I might have mentioned on the podcast before, I got some very good advice from Willie Miller, a former Scotland international, who was a sort of neutral. If anybody can be up there, he said, just come and enjoy all the things. Don't try and change us. You'll never change the culture of the fiction. And I wouldn't dream of doing that. But it is tough to, if you don't come from Scotland, it is a tough thing to see suited men very angry with each other in a football ground. Every aspect of it, fought tooth and nail.
Can I just tell you a quick Martin O'Neill story? possibly the most horrible European final in terms of conduct I've ever seen was the UEFA Cup final in 2003 between Porto and
Celtic.
Yeah. And Martin O'Neill in charge of Celtic then? And Jose Mourinho was in charge of Porto.
Correct.
And it was 3-2 to
Two very willful managers.
It was 3-2 to Porto, and it was evil. And Porto used every gamesmanship trick in the book to keep their 3-2 lead, and it all went over the top, and everything. It couldn't have been more sour. And that was our first, for a lot of us, that was our first sight of Jose Mourinho in action. About 3 or 4 years further on, Chelsea played a semi-final of a League Cup at Wycombe. Believe it or not, Wycombe Wanderers got to the semi-final. I'm sure it was 2 legs. And
Martin O'Neill was manager of Wycombe Wanderers.
He was, but he wasn't at that time. I think Laurie Sanchez or somebody was at that time. But Martin O'Neill was there. And somehow I finished up in the manager's office after the game with Martin O'Neill and Jose Mourinho. And I thought there would be fireworks because the first thing that came into my mind was what happened in 2003. And they were absolutely two brothers. Couldn't have been closer.
It takes one to recognise one, really. Yeah.
When Jose got up to leave, Martin O'Neill said to him, "Oh, and Jose," and he turned around and he said, "Yes." He said, "Don't ever change."
And he hasn't. No, but Martin O'Neill, of course, Northern Ireland international, but managed the Republic of Ireland. You go back to Troy Parrott, he'd be delighted with what's happening with the country that he did manage. And but I don't know how long Martin will be there. By the time this podcast goes out, that might have come to an end. But to go back into it at the age of 73 and take it all on, knowing however much you know it inside out, you've still got to find the energy to do it. And great credit to him for doing that. And in the other camp, and when you mention Celtic, you have to mention Rangers. I do think play it as needed. Danny Röhl, who is the permanent manager, not an interim manager, as much as any manager can be permanent, who's taken over from Russell Martin. And he's half the age of Martin O'Neill. And so it's a different journey, but it's a fascinating contrast between the two dugouts as it stands at the moment and the ambitions for two of the most famous clubs in Britain and well up on that kind of list around the world. And they've had their troubles, they've had their difficulties, and now their future's in the hands of a very veteran. I'm also going to use elderly. If I use elderly about Martin O'Neill, what would I say about myself? Decrepit would be the word that comes to mind. And a very young and very promising and very likable young man in Danny Röhl, who's shown himself in some television roles as a pundit, as an articulate man, the German who's didn't have much of a playing career, whereas Martin O'Neill had a great playing career. And it'll be fascinating to see how this narrative plays out for as long as it does. But if Martin O'Neill gets offered the job full time, I bet he'll take it.
I bet he will. Yeah, brilliant.
Anyway, two very different but very intriguing people, and football throws these stories up all the time. So there you go.
My old player, I thought it was time, especially as we've been talking World Cups and internationals this week. I thought it was time to explain this shirt. Now, for people who are just listening, you won't be able to see it, but
I think it's an Italian goalkeeper, won't they?
Yeah, it's a framed shirt in the background, Bonetti 12. He was my first hero. He got a lot of stick after the 1970 World Cup, which a certain Everton centre-half should have got more of, rather than him, but I won't go into that.
Why was it number 12?
Well, this is
an England shirt.
Yeah, this is his last shirt playing for England Old Boys, and he played the second half, and it's number 12.
So he shared it with another old boy.
Yeah,
then.
so yeah, and that's what it is. But I want to go back to what we were talking about before, about the managers having basically the equivalent of timeouts. in order to get the players around them. I think allowing all that kind of thing is because it's become an old person's game. It's become an old person's game because it's run by old people, and that's why the managers have become so important. But kids fall in love with players. I was 6 years old, and my dad wanted me to support Everton. And he took me to, because he knew the chairman of Everton and fancied swanning around the boardrooms of London, or the directors' boxes of London. And he took me to Chelsea-Everton for my first game. And I fell in love with Chelsea because I was a belligerent little sod.
So I'm trying to work out if you were 16, 2013.
This was 1959.
Because you'd have been, you'd been 10 in 1953.
Yeah. No, I'd have been born in 1953.
Born in 1953. Yeah.
So
I'm sure you're keeping it. You're older than me, really.
After that first Chelsea-Everton game, he took me to 3 more Everton games. I think Tottenham, West Ham and Fulham, maybe. I can't remember now. And the kids at school were beginning to get into football. No match of the day, so you just got it off the back pages of the newspaper. And Tottenham were the best team in the country, and they were top of the league, the old Division 1. It got to Easter Monday, and Tottenham were playing Chelsea, and he'd given up on me supporting Everton. And he said, well, let's go to Tottenham versus Chelsea and you can decide who you're going to support.
As you could in those days. But remind me, you could just go.
Yeah.
And when I was a non-league player, and if we didn't have a game or midweek game, you could just go, but you had to get there early and you could get in. So there was tickets. All ticket games were like a real shock.
So we lived in Richmond, sorry boy, and we were driving up the North Circular, and I can still remember him saying to me, Tottenham are top of the league, Chelsea were in the relegation zone, and they brought in this foreign teenage goalkeeper that nobody's heard of. And they've won almost all their games since, and they're up mid-table now and safe. And we get to the game, and Tottenham attacked for 89 minutes. He saved everything. Chelsea attacked once. Jimmy Greaves was playing for Chelsea then before he went to Italy and went to Tottenham. He scored the only goal of the game. And Tottenham lost, and in the end lost the league. Burnley won it that season. 1960. And he became my favourite player, this goalkeeper, on that one performance. And it became my ambition to immediately, age 6, to take over from him in the first team at Chelsea as soon as possible. And the bastard went on playing for another 19 years and played 729 games. But he was my absolute hero. And interestingly, just going back to Lammens and goalkeepers and what I've been saying, he and Cech are clearly Chelsea's 2 best goalkeepers ever. And that's been the 2 most successful periods, really, of the club.
Can I make 2 observations? One, Peter Bonetti played 1 game for Woking.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Well, he's in his 40s, I think.
Yeah. It was just an emergency, and he answered the call. And 2, if you were born in Richmond, why did you never come and watch Hampton and Richmond when I was coach there for 4 years?
Because that was much later. By then, I was already living here in Kingston.
I was coach at Kingstonian for nearly 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember.
Yeah, but I was working.
I don't remember you. The only time I remember, Neil, because you interviewed me after the game, was when Walton and Hersham played Brendan Rodgers, Chelsea.
Yeah. Reserves.
Under 18s, under 19s with Scott Sinclair up front. And we got Scott Sinclair equalised in the last minute. It was boys against men. I was assistant manager for the men's team. And you did, in the absence of anybody else worth getting, you did interview me. It was probably one of the first times that we met, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, you never came to Hampton, but I suppose, born in Richmond's a bit of a posh place,
it was simply that I had to be at every Chelsea first team, second team, and youth game. If
I forgive you. I forgive you.
And secondly,
but thank you to Peter Bonetti, God rest his soul, for playing that 1 game for Woking, because he dug us out of a bit of a mess.
But brilliant goalkeeper, brilliant bloke.
The cat.
And forever in my front room. Right, in my kitchen, I should say. Player this week.
Yeah, well, with England having done so well, I've got to go with England. It would be easy. I think the number of players that Thomas Tuchel has called up for those 8 games is over 30. I think 23 of them have played. But I have to, and you could say, well done to all of them. They're the players of the moment. But Harry Kane continues to be at the forefront of it. He's 32, be 33, I think, just after the World Cup final next year.
That's young these days, isn't it? In a centre forward.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, 78 goals now in 112 games. That's 25 more than Wayne Rooney, who was the first player to get over 50 ever. And Bobby Charlton 49, Gary Lineker 48. And it's just astonishing. I know that there are more internationals played, and he's
more against lesser countries.
Yeah, but
it's still it is unique.
It's amazing, and I think now he's beaten Pele. I think they've got 77 official goals. There are games where they official, where they. I think that's so that in itself is enough to say something. But it's just extraordinary. As a lover of centre forward play and a wannabe striker in my youth, was to just watch where he goes and how he does it. And he's a beacon for the orthodox. I mean, the second goal against Albania was a great cross by Marcus Rashford, but it just there's an air of inevitability about when the ball's in the air going towards Kane's head, and the type of goals he gets. He scored his first goal against Albania from virtually a yard, but he had read it, and to get into those positions, it's not luck. It's an astonishing nose for goal, but an appetite for goal. Sometimes when players do push on and it's all a bit more difficult, fitness is not perhaps as easy to come by, the sharpness maybe goes a tiny bit, that the output does fall off a bit. But in Harry's case, it's just the opposite. It's just more and more and more. And he doesn't go berserk when he scores. He's very, and yet inside he must be absolutely thrilled, because that's what scoring a goal at any level does for you. So I think sometimes we underplay him, and we've even talked earlier in this podcast about, he didn't do so well in this and do that. England are so lucky to still have him, and that to have a player of such prominence when other teams are struggling to find goal scorers who last maybe a season or two. And that's why Troy Parrott, going back to it, now what standards he's set, he can score goals against the best of them under pressure. And he's now going to make it. And he's obviously got that desire to get into the fifth of his 5 goals, the one that won it in Hungary. Only a Harry Kane or an Alan Shearer or somebody who lives by scoring goals gets to that ball. And so in praise of Harry, really, I think he could be player of any week, really, for what he's done in the game. I just don't want people to undervalue him and to write him off before another tournament. I'm sure he's got that in afterwards. So fitness, of course, is always a problem for everybody, but he's still in his pomp, and England are the great beneficiary of that.
Yep. Mine is another centre forward, 24-year-old Brazilian, Igor Thiago at Brentford. And the reason I've chosen him is he is the only Premier League player to have scored more than half the goals that Erling Haaland has got this season.
Give us the figures.
These are the top scorers in the Premier League as we speak. Haaland 14, Thiago 8, and the next 3 on 6, Semenyo at Bournemouth, Mateta at Crystal Palace, and Welbeck at Brighton. And just for the record, Manchester United doing better, and Mbuemo on 5. He's the only one on 5. But
who
Thiago
left Brentford?
Pardon?
Who left Brentford?
Who left Brentford and is not missed because Thiago's.
Thiago was there, of course.
He didn't play last season.
No, he was signed or was injured, I think, pre-season before his first season, and he was to replace Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
And when
Wissa replaced him.
In the end, that's what Brian and Wissa had a wonderful partnership, and now they're both gone, and Brentford are still doing okay. And Igor Thiago is right at the heart of that, as you quite rightly say.
He's obviously not playing for Brazil. I think his chance of being called up for Brazil when he's a Brentford player might be slightly more remote than if he were playing for somebody more fashionable. But I'd love it. I'd love it if he went in as a Brentford player. I don't know how good he is. I've seen him play, and he's certainly a presence.
Yeah, he's strong, big man, strong.
I don't know how good he is, but he is leading the chase of the pack to catch Erling.
And like Ivan Toney, he can score a penalty as well.
Yeah.
He's done well in that respect. So I can understand. We always go on about the recruitment at clubs like Brighton and Brentford and the algorithms they do. I can understand why they signed him. Yeah, he fits that profile.
And also
Tony fit.
Going back to my theory that my belief that you need a goalkeeper and a goal scorer is going to keep you up. Forget everybody else if you're a team that's going to struggle. Brentford are going to struggle because of their finances, because of the size of their stadium, because of the whole size of the club. They've signed Kelleher from Liverpool, who I'm not convinced isn't still Liverpool's second best goalkeeper if he were at the club, and who would.
Is that a compliment?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's.
Just make it clear.
I think he's a real Premier League goalkeeper, Kelleher. I do. And now they've got Thiago.
And of course, he's been in the games with Troy Parrott as well. So it's a very, very Irish. Irish eyes are smiling.
Yeah. Okay. Igor Thiago, respect. Okay. That's it, except for stoppage time.
Stoppage time.
I'm just going to read you a response in stoppage time from a watcher, listener, and a reader of our Substack, Danny Peacock, who has responded to something Martin wrote at the end of last season in his letter from the Gantry when he wrote about the three up campaign by the National League. Remember, they only have 2 up at the moment.
1+1,
Yeah, 1 plus a playoff.
1 automatic and 1 plus a playoff.
And this is what Danny wrote in response to Martin. I think it is a good time to consider the 3 up as the National League is stronger than ever. Look at this season where 3 points separate the top 6. Some great established teams involved. I did have my reservations, which has more to do with clubs coming the other way. Classic examples like Morecambe, Hartlepool, Scunthorpe, Southend, Macclesfield, badly run at the time, but fell down into financial difficulties. Had they survived in the Football League, could matters for them have been different? I also like that the National League is difficult to get out of. It is, after all, non-league, and it should be made that bit more difficult to get into the Football League. But listening to a lot of people in favour of 3 up, I'm willing to be more supportive. No questions the big budget clubs at the top of the division will live comfortably in the league above. But we do need to be considerate of those struggling in the Football League. Now, the reason I brought this up this week is because there was a campaign push this weekend, just gone.
Yeah, the game's kicked off at 3 minutes past 3, the 3 being emphasised. When I wrote that letter from the Gantry at the end of last season, I'd been asked to do a voiceover on a promotion for the extra promotion, which was played out at Wembley on the big screens when Oldham played Southend for that promotion playoff placed in the Football League, which Oldham, it was a wonderful game, by the way, a wonderful game. And there is a real logic to it. But there's a point made by Danny in this that I think is really relevant, is the finances. And having been around non-league football a long time, there is a lot of financial structure that maybe is not as solid as it should be. There are, of course, clubs that have benefactors, just like the old days, really, just like the top clubs used to have. And when those individuals lose their interest or can't put the money in, the clubs, there's a great deal of up and down within non-league football. teams that have been high and pushing for a place in the Football League suddenly find themselves 2 or 3 divisions below in the wonderful pyramid that we have. So I support the 3 Up campaign on the one condition that the finances are very, very strictly vetted by the Football League, because there's nothing that's a worse advert for non-league football if a club goes up and then comes back down again in disarray very soon after. I can't think of anything currently. Certainly United are close to working geographically and sort of, if you like, spiritually as well. They, I think, had 3 seasons in the Football League. The first time, Woking never gone up, but Sutton sort of lived out the dreams, really. And they had 3 years, and they've come back, and they are still in a good state. And they've got actually changed from the artificial pitch, which they had when they went up. They've now got a really good grass pitch. Now they're back in non-league football, supported by, at least as I understand it, by the Crystal Palace football club with the women's team play there. So it's a really good grass pitch. And Bromley, who are up at the moment, and I'm hoping to go and see in the next couple of weeks because I've got them for research purposes. They also got rid of a plastic pitch to go in the Football League. They're still in the Football League, and their grass pitch is tremendous because we played there as the Woking in the FA Youth Cup last season. So we played on that pitch. Really, really good. So as long as there are proper checks in place, and don't we say this about all levels of football? Are the checks as good as they should be? Because we do even higher up. Look at Sheffield Wednesday, for example. You know, those things should not be allowed to happen. Those who've rubber stamped that takeover should be ashamed of themselves, because you have. I don't believe in this. We can't do enough due diligence because of data protection. You have to find a way around that. And if the money is not put up in a way that is transparent for the leagues, then the guy couldn't get the club, you know, and we're not in such a desperate situation that there aren't enough people who are interested in clubs. We just have to have the right people. So, I mean, the Morecambe thing obviously bestrode this argument. They've gone down and then they were in a terrible state, looked as though they might have gone out of business at the start of the season. Happily, that hasn't happened. But those kind of things worry me about this, how many teams go up and how many don't. The quality of the league is excellent, full-time football, and so it would be a 5th division, but it wants to maintain its identity as the National League and not become League 3, would it be then, wouldn't it, if it went into the Football League? So if you want to protect that, you have to live with the restrictions that the Football League put on you. If you said, we'll pass it all over to the EFL, then you get 3 up. It wouldn't be, you'd probably get 4 up. So it's a great campaign. If it's done properly, it's the right thing.
And on that note, thank you for watching and listening from Martin and me.
See you next time.
As ever, thanks for staying with us till the end. Don't forget, subscribe, Patreon, comments, just stay involved. Was that really England's best performance, 1998 against Argentina?
No, just the 40 minutes of best World Cup football. That's what I said, 40 minutes. Argentina played a massive part in it. It was 2-2. And it was brilliant. And my first reaction was when David Beckham got sent off was not because that was an English thing. It was because the balance that was so perfect in those first 40 minutes would be disrupted and it would never come back again.
And of course, Diego Simeone was the one that he fouled, Atletico Madrid manager, and the nearest player to him with the longest ponytail in the World Cup, Maurizio Pochettino. Extraordinary.